What's happening, Bengals fans? It's Inside the Jungle postgame right here at CincyJungle.com. How does 2-0 sound? 2-0 sounds really good right about now, doesn't it? What a win by the Bengals as they shut down the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons came into Paul Brown Stadium today, fresh off a big home win over the New Orleans Saints a week ago. And today, major kudos to Paul Guenther and that Bengals defense for shutting down the Falcons offense. I believe I said on Inside the Jungle this week, my bold prediction was that this defense would hold the Falcons to 10 points or less. Man, I'm looking pretty smart right about now. Want to get in touch, Bengals fans? 404-946-3397 is the number to call. You can also get in touch with us via Skype if you're outside the country. What a day when you consider all of the injuries, and not just in this game, but in games around the NFL as well. But when you don't have Tyler Eifert and you lose A.J. Green on your first drive, no Marvin Jones. We saw Andrew Whitworth go down. We saw Kevin Zeitler go down. Vontaze Burfict missed most of the second half after he re-injured himself. Injuries are the name of the game, and it's the teams that are deep and can plug in and next man up and can bring guys off the bench to perform that do well in this league. And this is where you got to give Marvin Lewis and the Cincinnati Bengals front office major kudos. They continue to bring these guys off the bench and they continue to contribute. So it's fantastic. It wasn't pretty by all means, but again, a win is a win early on in the season. That's all you can ask for at this point. 2-0. And that is looking and feeling pretty good right about now. Again, if you want to get in touch, 404-946-3397. Want to hear your thoughts, Bengals fans. Let's start off the show with our boy, Fatal Content. Fatal, what's up, man? How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing well, man. Andy freaking Dalton, man.
That's right. He was the man today.
Yeah, man. Lots of things to say, man. First and foremost, this game was Wes Craven nightmare, man, in terms of injuries. I mean, it was pretty rough to see Zeitler go down, to see AJ go down on the first drive, to see Burfict getting banged around. I mean, I was wondering, were we trying to get Burfict killed? I thought he should have had this game off, and at least maybe even next week, and also into the bye to give him, make sure he's fine. But it was a pretty good game. The injuries were troublesome, but man, we finally have a real team. They just kept forward. They kept moving forward. Not only did they keep trucking, they dominated.
You know, the name of the game, and we kind of talked about it this week on the show, Fatal, the battle in the trenches is where this game was going to be won. And it was pretty clear. The Bengals offensive line manhandled that Falcons front. And then when you look at our front four, they were able to get pressure on Matt Ryan.
Yeah, they did. I mean, Matt Ryan is probably going to have nightmares about Carlos Dunlap today because Dunlap just completely dominated him, and that's without Geno, still not being back where he was. Yeah, the front seven definitely dominated.
You were talking about Andy Dalton, 15 of 23 on the day for 252 yards. He did have the one touchdown pass. It's still. Are you concerned about the red zone woes?
Concerned, yes, only because of the numbers show that we're not finishing plays off. Yes, it's definitely a concern moving forward, and that's mainly because of injuries, and that's not going to change anytime soon. So, yeah, it's a concern on that front, and definitely with seeing what's going to happen with AJ, it's even more of a concern. So, I think due to injuries, but as soon as we get all our weapons back, I think later in the year that'll change, but the running game definitely gave us some hope. I mean, it was dominant, 70-something from Hill and I believe 90 from Gio. It was great performance by those guys.
170 rushing yards on the day. It was fantastic. Bring on the Titans, right, Fatal?
Bring on the Titans, man. 3-0 going into the bye week. I know it's a game at a time, but you saw what the Cowboys just did to them. Well, I don't know what our defense is going to do to them if the Cowboys destructed them.
Oh man, that's why they play the game, right? I mean, the Browns beat the Saints, so you can't count your chickens. You know what I'm saying, Fatal?
Yeah, tell me about it. Yeah, it did happen today. So, hey man, great show. Who they? Andy freaking Dalton, another weekend MVP running. Let's get it going, guys.
All right, man. Appreciate the call, Fatal. Let's go back to the jungle line. Area code 314. Hi, who's this?
Hey, it's Antoine. How you doing?
Antoine, what's happening, man?
What's going on? Hey, well, first things first, I want to talk about how the game started off first. Of course, with the injuries and everything, and usually when your best receiver go down, that's when I was thinking, you know, how would Andy think now? Once your best player goes down, sometimes they lose their composure and start, trying to force things and stuff like that. And I thought he did a real good job of, once again, not throwing any interceptions, not forcing anything. Hugh Jackson did a good job at the play calls. Jeremy Hill did really good. So stick with that running game, doing that with the play calling. It was a real good indication of how we're going to be later on in the year. It's going to be a problem trying to stop us. But once AJ Green went down and Burford went down again, it looked like they were throwing to Brandon Tate more. He looked like our go-to receiver. So I was a little worried there, but we got it going. I think Burfict, I don't know what it is, but he keeps leading with his head, like every tackle he goes through. And if he keeps doing that, he's going to have a short career. That's what's causing all his concussions. The last one that knocked him out, that was kind of a freak accident. I think Lemur hit him on the head. But, yeah, man, I mean, we're looking pretty good. The last 2 weeks showed a lot. Burfict going out the second half of the first game, and AJ Green going out early in this game, and Burfict going out again. You wonder how we respond. We responded very well.
Yeah, I was impressed, and you kind of you kind of hit the nail right on the head when you talk about Hugh Jackson and his play calling. Once AJ Green went out of the game, they put the ball in the hands of the guys that they had left, and that was Jeremy Hill and Gio Bernard. And but I think going into this week, they knew they were going to run the football and have the ability to have some success in the running game against this Falcons front. But when you look at what they did in the passing game, I mean, Bernard had 5 catches for 79 yards, and he had 160 yards total on the day. I mean, that's you talk about coming to work. 27 carries, 5 catches. You'll take that every week from Bernard.
Yeah. I mean, at one point, I think it was in they showed us in the second half. In the first half, all in the first half, I think Gio had more yards total than the whole Falcons offense. So, I mean, any questions about Gunther taking over for Zimmer? I think that shutting that down. I mean, he's done a great job with the team that he has now. Newman's been really great. When he came from Dallas, I mean, I thought he'd pretty much be done, but he's been getting better every year. So, yeah, it's looking good for us, man, and hope to keep this going to the Titans and going on to the bye week.
Yeah, let's hope everybody can get healthy in the bye week. I think now everybody's kind of happy about that early bye week with all the injuries that we have. But appreciate the call, Antoine. I'm sure we'll talk to you this week. All right, bub?
All right, good to see you later.
Who day? That's Antoine on the Jungle Line. Bengals fans, if you want to get in touch, 404-946-3397 is the number to call. Again, if you're outside the country, the Skype account is Inside the Jungle. Alexander in the chat room, he says, I'll take the blame for Nugent, claimed him and started him. He's clearly talking about fantasy football. Yes, Mike Nugent did not have his best day as a Bengal. He did miss 3 field goals. He missed a 55-yarder at the end of the first half. 1 for 4 on the day. In fact, he's after making 5 field goals in the first half against the Ravens, he's missed 4 out of his last 5 kicks, so that's not great. But hopefully that he'll get that corrected this week. You know how those kickers are, those fickle kickers. I appreciate all the love on Twitter I got today as well, telling the Bengals that I should be the next kicker. I have retired from that game. I am no longer a kicker, but I like talking about them. So yeah, fortunately, the missed field goals did not come back to haunt us. But again, you don't like that. 15 of 23 on the day for Andy Dalton, 252 yards. Mohamed Sanu got in on the act with a 50-yard pass to Brandon Tate. Brandon Tate, you know my thoughts on Brandon Tate. I think he's being put in positions to succeed, and I'm finally happy to see that he's doing well. And so I will gladly eat my words when Brandon Tate does well. Dane Sanzabacher had 2 catches for 42 yards on the day. We saw Jermaine Gresham. You know, when you consider that Alex Smith was out for the game due to an injury. No Tyler Eifert. You would think that maybe Gresham would have a little bit more of an impact. We didn't see a whole lot of him, but he did have 3 catches on the day for 25 yards. Let's go back to the jungle line. Area code 210. Hi, who's this?
Hey, this is James from Korea.
Hey, James. How you doing, man?
All right, man. How'd you like the safety play today?
Well, I thought Reggie Nelson was fantastic. I thought Aloka as well was flying around the ball. He had a couple interceptions today. I mean, that, when you can get turnovers from those guys and Reggie Nelson, hitting people, I love watching that. I think it's not just the safeties. The whole secondary played well.
Yeah. I always thought the big difference between our defenses the past few years is sometimes the safety play wasn't all there, but man, Iloka was really good this year. I remember last year he played really well, but he just wasn't getting any turnovers, and 2 picks in one game would do.
Yeah, we'd love to see that. You're right. It was like he was just off a bit, and he would just mistime it. But today he was in the right spot a couple times. And like you said, I thought Reggie Nelson had a pretty good game. We saw him with a couple big hits. But yeah, I mean, Reggie Nelson, 5 tackles on the day. He also had a tackle for loss. But yeah, the defense as a whole, James, has been just absolutely fantastic. I mean, this is a Falcons team that scored 37 last week.
Yeah, I was really impressed. I was pretty worried about it because I wasn't sure whether Burfict would play. I really hope they just rest him against the Titans. 2 concussions in 2 games is anything to take casually.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was actually a concussion that was bothering him. Paul Daner on Twitter actually mentioned something about a stinger, so maybe that was the issue today, which makes sense when you consider he got hit in the back of the head, maybe jarred his neck a little bit. But if it is a concussion, yeah, I agree with you. Sit him down next week. No need to have him play, and then you give him an extra week with the bye because you will need him against Tom Brady and the Patriots.
Yeah, that play nearly gave me a heart attack with Lamar grabbing his knee and Burfict holding his head.
Yeah, both of them, right.
A typical pessimistic Bengals fan, so I was like ready for them both to be on IR.
Well, I mean, when you could say it was like that with every injury today. I mean, it just seemed like if you had a Bengals jersey on today, you were at some point injured. We didn't see Drake Kirkpatrick injured, but it seemed like everybody else went down.
Yeah, I think we've had everything except for maybe Shark Attack.
Yeah.
Pretty much everything else, though.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the call, man. Don't be a stranger, all right, man?
Yes, sir.
Hooday. 404-946-3397 is the number to call, Bengals fans. If you're watching us live here at CincyJungle.com, want to hear your thoughts. Perfect call. I'm glad he brought up the safety play. Aloka, a couple of interceptions today. Nelson, fantastic as well. And you got to give it up. Terrence Newman, we kind of talked about it a year ago. It's not that he was getting burnt it just seemed like they were targeting him a lot and they were able to complete the balls thrown at him. And so it wasn't like he was getting burnt, but at the same time it was just more of a bend, don't break kind of mentality where now it seems like the safeties and the corners are able to get to the ball and they're preventing the completion. So you got to give a large amount of credit to Paul Gunther. He's called a pretty good first 2 games in his defensive coordinator career here in the NFL. Major kudos to him. In fact, Terrence Newman today is your leading tackler with 10. That helps when you don't have Vontaze for a significant part of the game. Lemur also had 9 tackles. Leon Hall was 6, and Reggie Nelson, as I mentioned, had the 5 tackles. 170 yards rushing between your 2 running backs. When you look at Bernard with the 90 yards on 27 carries, that's a 3.3 average, which isn't spectacular, but it got the job done. Jeremy Hill today, 15 carries for 74 yards. That is awesome. You see that 4.9 yard per carry average. That's pretty good from your backup running back. This is the kind of game where when you look at the passing attempts from Andy Dalton, 23 pass attempts. That is more like it. That is definitely more like it. Alexander in the chat room says, can we all take a moment to appreciate no triple options and no Gresh penalties? There were a couple times today when they ran what appeared to be the read option where Dalton could have kept it and he would have had some running room, but instead he didn't. And he ended up handing the ball off, which I think we can all live with. But at the same time, I like the aggressiveness from Hugh Jackson and giving that option for Andy Dalton to make that play. But again, when you come back to Hugh Jackson and the game plan and what they called today, you like the 23 pass attempts from Dalton and the 45 rush attempts. That tells me that they knew they could wear down this Falcons front, and it certainly showed. Mohamed Sanu, 3 catches on the day for 84 yards. Bernard, 5 catches for 79. And we mentioned Brandon Tate with the 1 catch for 50. Sansabacher again, and we saw Jeremy Hill had 2 catches for 22 yards as well. But I want to hear your thoughts, Bengals fans. Who was your MVP of today's game? 404-946-3397. What do you make of the injuries? And what do you think about the Bengals taking on the Titans next week? The Titans came off with a big win a week ago against Kansas City, and then today laid an egg against the Cowboys, the lowly Cowboys. Let's take a look now at some of the scores from around the league. As I mentioned, the Cleveland Browns have beaten the New Orleans Saints. That is remarkable. That is absolutely remarkable when you think about this. This is the same Cleveland Browns team that a week ago was down 27-3 to the Steelers and managed to tie it. But today they knock off the New Orleans Saints. 26-24 is your final score there. Washington puts up 41 points at home against the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's a lot of points. Did not see that coming when you consider RG3 went out with an injury. Let's go back to the Skype line and welcome in Mike Vardy to the program. Mike, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Who day?
Who day is right. What did you make of today's game, man?
You know what? I'm so glad we have so many weapons because they seem to be going down like flies. Man, and Dalton, he's my MVP because he looks so composed. Like he doesn't look like. I mean, even last year, yeah, he was putting up great numbers, but he just looks far more comfortable and almost more mature at this point. And I think that's going to go a long way for us.
Oh, I completely agree with you. When you look at he has command. He's got command of this offense. He's very comfortable, and I liked seeing him check out of plays and get into good running plays where they were able to get 4 or 5 yards on the ground, rather than the risky throws. You're right, though. I mean, it is kind of, and I don't know if it has anything to do with the new contract, if it has anything to do with him being in his 4th year now. When you consider this is a guy who's been in the postseason 3 years in a row, Mike, you're right. It's good to see him feeling comfortable, confident, and it's good to see. It's really good to see. I'm glad you brought that up.
And that O-line is looking. I mean, I know we were really worried heading into the season, but they've held strong. Even when Zeitler went down and they had to move some guys around, they were in there and they were holding tough. So I mean, I'm feeling good right now. Especially, I mean, we got the Titans next week, then we got the bye, so we'll get some rest. I think that we're going to get a good start off to the year, and hopefully we'll carry that momentum through after the bye because we got a tough schedule after that. Yeah,
the offensive line doesn't get enough credit, and then especially when you consider they're starting a rookie center.
Mm-hmm.
Today, again, no sacks for Andy Dalton, which is nice. And the offensive line has been fantastic, and hopefully the injury to Zeitler isn't too bad. But you're right, the offensive line play has been great, and it also carries over into the running game as well. When you can rush the ball for 170 yards, that offensive line had to be feeling pretty good.
Yeah, it was a great game all around. My only concern now, honestly, the biggest concern today was the kicking game. And like I said, I hope they got Quinn Sharp on speed dial.
I hear you, Mike. Hey, man, appreciate the call.
Who day?
That's Mike Vardy on the Jungle Line giving us a ring. If you want to get in touch, Bengals fans, we're here. We're here to talk about today's game. I'm glad he brought up the kicker position, though, because Mike Nugent today, and it wasn't just his field goals. I was very surprised at the lack of depth on his kickoffs, giving Devin Hester a chance to even get going in the return game. That was shocking in itself. I would have been squibbing that ball every kickoff if I possibly could have. So I don't know if there was an injury. Maybe he just was having an off day. I don't know how windy it was at Paul Brown Stadium. but I do know that you don't want to kick the ball to Devin Hester. I know he's getting up there in age, but he's still Devin Hester for a reason, guys. And I was very surprised that the Bengals were so cavalier in the kickoff game. Antoine in the chat room says his MVP is Dalton/Hugh with the play calls and executions. Tom Buell says Dalton is calling a great game. And so there we have it. Want to hear your thoughts, though, Bengals fans. 404-946-3397. I know when we looked at the schedule, we were concerned about that trip to New Orleans, but now that trip has a little different meaning when you consider they are 0-2. And teams that go 0-2 to start the year have an 11% chance. It's either 11% or 12%. I should probably check my facts first. But have a 12% chance of making the postseason in the NFL. And so when the Bengals will be playing the Saints come November, they may or may not be in the thick of things in the NFC South. Carolina today beat up on Detroit. They're 2-0 now. And so that might be Carolina's division to lose when you consider Atlanta 1-1, the Saints 0-2, Tampa 0-2. It's funny how we look at this schedule in the preseason and we can kind of we don't necessarily bank on these games being wins, but now that Cleveland game has a whole lot of different meaning as well. To beat New Orleans when nobody expected them to beat New Orleans is remarkable. And so that Cleveland game definitely will have some different meaning. And it's not just today, but it was the way they came back a week ago against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so the AFC North is it's not going to be a cakewalk. It's certainly not going to be a cakewalk. So for all those Bengals fans who are out there listening right now, I'd love to hear from a Dalton hater right about now, because he gets a lot of flack for the way he plays on primetime, for the way he plays in the postseason. But you cannot argue with the way he's played these first two games. No sacks, no turnovers, and the guy has just flat out gotten it done. And so I've been very impressed with his play here early on in the season. Let's go back to the jungle line. Area code 480. Hi, who's this?
Hi, it's Sweet Pea from Phoenix.
Hey, how you doing tonight, man?
Good, good. Hey, I'm a little concerned about all the injuries we had tonight. How many players ended up going down?
I think it was at last count like 6. It's pretty crazy.
I'm a little worried about Seitler going down, and of course Burfict going out of the game. That's yet another big star down that we've got to worry about.
Yeah, but I think the defense has some guys that it's hard to replace Vontaze Burfict. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying anybody on this defense can replace Vontaze Burfict, but we've seen Vinny Ray play and make some plays. It's odd, but I still don't recall in these two games ever hearing Ray Maluga's name at all. And I don't know if that's maybe a good thing because he's doing things right, but again, we just haven't seen him much around the football, which is odd.
Well, he's head and tails better than he was last year, and I think that's a confidence boost that's great for the team from a leadership perspective. He's just not the player that I think we all threw up on the billing that we wanted him to be, but he's solid enough back there that he's doing the job.
But you're right, though. The injuries are a concern, and I don't know if this is just a phenomenon because it seems like it's happening everywhere else in the NFL as well. I just wonder if the preseason and training camp and everything might just be a little too long, and so we're extending these guys more than they need to be.
Yeah, there's a lot of wear and tear on the knees especially. But, hey, I have one big question for you tonight, Nick.
All right.
All right, so what's your thoughts about Brandon Tate catching that 50-yard pass from Sanu?
I eat my words. I will fully own up to it. When he brought that ball down, I was thoroughly impressed. A lot of the grief and the moaning that I do about Brandon Tate isn't so much in what he does on the offense; it's the special teams. And so he hasn't made any how do I want to play? He hasn't made any dumb choices in regards to special teams. He's not returning punts that he shouldn't be. He's not returning kickoffs 10 yards deep in the end zone. And so for that, I have to give him credit. He's done a great job here in these first two games, and the fact that he's also contributing on offense, that just makes it even better. So I will totally eat my words.
Yeah, that's a big shift up for him, and it's nice to see. I'm not a huge Chase fan myself, but today he had to step up with AJ going down, and let's hope that continues.
Yeah, and the best part about that play was that it came from Mohamed Sanu, who threw a dart. And then that it's nice to have that option in the playbook, and it'd be nice to see a little more.
Absolutely. Hey, thanks for the time, Nick.
No problem. Thanks for calling. 404-946-3397 is the number to call, Bengals fans. If you're watching us live here at CincyJungle.com, I want to hear your thoughts as far as who you think your MVP is of today's game. Your thoughts heading into next week's game against the Titans, who today got beat by the Cowboys pretty handily, which is very surprising. I thought Tennessee would be able to beat Dallas easily, but that's why you play the games. 26-10 your final there in Tennessee. The Dallas Cowboys knock off the Titans. Early on in the game in Oakland, Houston's up 7-0 over the Raiders. Tonight, obviously, we'll be watching Philadelphia against the Colts. I'm sorry, tomorrow night, and then tonight you'll see Chicago and San Francisco. We saw the Cardinals go into MetLife Stadium and knock off the Giants. Carson Palmer did not play. Drew Stanton played, but they win 25-14 over the Giants. As I mentioned earlier, Carolina beats Detroit 24-7. The Jets right now, wow, up 14-0 over Green Bay in Green Bay. How about those Bills? They win again. They win 29-10 over Miami. Big win for Buffalo. They're now 2-0. And New England, they beat Minnesota 30-7 there in Minnesota. Tom Brady and company get a win in the win column, as they're now 1-1 on the year. St. Louis and Tampa Bay tied at 7 as well. And Denver and Kansas City right now 7-0. Denver's leading that game in the first quarter. Pretty remarkable when you consider all the injuries. You consider no Marvin Jones, no Tyler Eifert. You lose A.J. Green early in today's game. To be able to score and put up points against this Falcons defense, to be able to next man up and just make plays, that's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. Frode in the chat room says, come on, Nick, he's got 2 touchdown passes in 8 quarters. Yes, he only has the 2 touchdown passes. I agree with you, Frode, but he's not turning the ball over. He's not making mistakes. And he's not throwing the ball in places he shouldn't be. There hasn't been a whole, and I'm talking about Dalton, there hasn't been a whole lot of those head-scratcher, like, what were you thinking kind of throws. They've been smart. They've been accurate. And a lot of the touchdown passes or the lack of touchdown passes comes down to red zone. And today he missed some throws. I think if he goes back and looks at the film, he's going to see that he missed some throws. He probably could have had Dane Sanzemacher on a touchdown pass. He probably could have hit Brandon Tate on a touchdown pass, but just missed the throws. But he's not turning it over. He's managing the game. And he's not putting the defense in positions where they can't succeed. So for that, you got to give him credit. And I know we're kicking a lot of field goals, but they're getting down there. They're getting down to the red zone. No, they're not getting 7. I'm sorry, no, they're not getting 6. But you'd like to think that Mike Nugent can make those field goals. So I agree with you from that sense, Frode, that the 2 touchdown passes in 8 quarters isn't great. But I like that 0 in the interception column and in the turnover column. I'll take that any day of the week. Yes, there are some struggles in the red zone, but when you're missing a lot of your top targets, I'm sure Tyler Eifert is a big factor in the red zone, and clearly they miss him when it comes to red zone opportunities. But I'd like to see them run the ball a little more in the red zone, and so we saw that today. I think maybe we rely a little bit too much on the pass when we get down there. And obviously the field gets smaller, so it's harder to run the football. I certainly understand that. But, the good news is it's only 2 games, and they still have time to get that corrected and get guys back that can make an impact in the red zone. I'm surprised we haven't seen more of Jermaine Gresham in the red zone. But when you lose A.J. Green today, you still have Mohamed Sanu as well. And yeah, and it's odd. Both of his touchdowns have come on the opposite end of the field. They've been long touchdown passes. They haven't been of the short variety. So there's that. The good news is they can get it corrected. There's time to look at it and get it fixed, and I think they will. Next week will be a big week. They get to go play against the Titans, who aren't exactly a stellar defensive team. Who knows? Maybe we'll have some guys back. Hopefully A.J. Green will be able to play next week. But at the end of the day, I mean, I think we all would agree, guys, that the best weapon that they have on this offense is their running attack, I should say. And that just turn around and hand the ball off to 25 and 32 and let them do all the work. I mean, that to me, if you have to give an MVP for today's game, to me, I look at that rushing attack, and I give the MVP to that offensive line because they were fantastic. They kept Andy Dalton clean, no sacks for Andy Dalton, and they were able to ground out to 170 yards on 45 carries. That's pretty awesome. Dave Black in the chat room says, let's put Clark Harris at tight end in the red zone. Dave Black is the president of the Clark Harris fan club. Clearly. I kid, David. We'll be here for another 10 minutes or so, Bengals fans. If you want to get in touch, again, 404-946-3397. Inside the Jungle on Skype as well. We're talking Bengals here at cincyjungle.com. I want to take a look now at some of the stats from the Falcons. Matt Ryan today, 24 of 44. 44 pass attempts for Matt Ryan today. And when you consider last week, Joe Flacco threw 68 times. Wow, that is crazy. That's a lot of pass attempts. That's a lot of pass attempts that this secondary has seen already here in 2014. Steven Jackson, 11 carries for 46 yards. Matt Ryan had 3 carries for 28. And Jacquizz Rodgers, 5 carries for 23. So 19 carries for 97 yards as a team for the Falcons. That's a 5.1 yard per carry average, which isn't not great for this defense. But the best part, no points. They didn't give up a whole lot of points today. 10 points. They held the Falcons to 10 points today, guys. This is the same team that scored 37 a week ago against the Falcons. And they were able to hold Atlanta today, this defense, and Paul Guenther calling a magnificent game. I love his blitz calls. And, it's not like we saw Zimmer do a lot of blitzing, but Guenther, he is aggressive, and I like that. That is fun to watch. A lot of fun to watch. Let's take a look now at some of the receiving numbers for the Falcons. Julio Jones with 7 catches for 88 yards. He did have the 1 touchdown. Roddy White, 5 catches for 42 yards. Harry Douglas, 4 for 38. Those are your big name receivers there for Atlanta. It's just 24 of 44. That's just a lot of pass attempts. And I know it's become a passing league. And I think that once Atlanta got behind, at that point the running game had to get, the running game couldn't get going for Atlanta, and by then they needed to throw to get back in the game. But again, hey, Bengals 2-0, 2-0 to start the year here in 2014. When we talked about it on the show during our preview episode a couple weeks ago, we all thought that the Bengals would start 2-0, and they have. And all 4 of us on the show, we all predicted that they'll beat Tennessee and start the year 3-0, which is awesome. Raphael in the chat room says, how about the young Wright? If he remembers it as the NFL and not college, he has the catch of the day. Yeah, that's true. Alexander also says, you got to love playing O-line right now, knowing that your quarterback could be playing in a suit and that your running backs are having days of their lives. Yeah, I mean, the offensive line's been great. You know, we all had concerns about Bodine heading into the season about whether or not he could handle this, but I think he's done a fantastic job here after 2 weeks. You know, anytime you can keep your quarterback clean and not get touched, you like that. There were a couple throws today where I think the pressure got to Andy Dalton a little bit, and he did those jump passes where he's kind of throwing off his back foot. And those are the passes that are going to get you picked off. And that, I think, Hugh Jackson will look at this week and critique his play and say, you can't do these. You definitely can't do these. But at this point, we're nitpicking, right? We're nitpicking about this team after starting 2-0. A couple things that some of the negatives you have to point out, obviously, special teams in the kicking game as far as field goals go. You don't like that. We did see Marguson almost block a field goal. But the return game, Adam, I got to get used to saying Adam Jones. Adam Jones has done a great job. So, I mean, at this point, you really have minimal complaints as far as how the team is playing right now. The injuries are going to happen. It's just unfortunately that they're happening in large amounts right now. And the good news is, hopefully, these are the kind of injuries that people can recover from and get back to playing rather quickly. AJ Green having some issues with his toe. We don't know what his status is for next week. Vontez, and we kind of talked about it earlier here on the show. I think if I'm the Bengals coaching staff right now, I'm sitting him out this week against the Titans and letting him rest, then letting him rest on the bye week so that he's ready to go for that game against the Patriots in 3 weeks. Because you're going to need a healthy Vontez Burfict in that game, that's for sure. That is for sure. All I know right now, Bengals fans, is that they are 2-0 in first place in the AFC North right now, which is fantastic. And you like hearing that. You can't, not a whole lot to complain about, which is awesome. Don't forget, you can join us every Wednesday night right here at CincyJungle.com for Inside the Jungle, where we're live. We're discussing the Bengals. We'll recap today's game. We'll also look ahead and go behind the enemy lines next week with the Titans, with my good pal Scott Bantel, Mickey Menser, and hopefully we'll have Anthony Cosenza back this week. So join us Wednesday night, 8 o'clock Eastern, right here at CincyJungle.com. You can always download the podcast in iTunes. You can download us in Stitcher Smart Radio. There are all kinds of ways to download the podcast and subscribe to this podcast. You can check us out. If you have questions or you need help subscribing, you can always email me, insidethejungle@spnt.tv. And you can also follow me on Twitter as well, at Nick Suberling. I live tweet during the games, and love seeing your tweets during the week as well. Final thoughts as I wrap up today. I got to give full credit to the offensive line. Those guys are going to eat well tonight. 170 yards on the ground from our 2 running backs. You'll take that every week. And let's hope that this running game continues to progress and gets better. It's been fantastic here throughout the first couple of weeks of the season. Don't forget, Inside the Jungle is a listener-supported show. You can always support the show. If you like what we do here at Inside the Jungle, whether it's the post-game show, whether it's Wednesday nights during our regular show, and you can contribute, we really would appreciate the support. You can log on to spnt.tv/Patreon for more information about that. Before I get out of here, I just got to thank our associate producers, Andy Lanham, Larry Rolson, Mike Vardy, and Chris Setters. Again, make sure you subscribe so that you can get the automatic downloads of this podcast each and every week. You'll get the automatic downloads of the audio of the post-game show. You'll automatically get the Inside the Jungle podcast on Wednesday nights if you subscribe, so make sure you do that. You don't want to miss out on that. Inside the Jungle post-game against the Falcons is in the can. Again, if you want to get in touch, you can always email me, insidethejungle@spnt.tv, and follow me on Twitter at Nick Suberling. Inside the Jungle is an SPNT production. For more information about our other podcasts, log on to spnt.tv. Hey, and while you're at it, check out cincyjungle.com for great game recaps, all the Bengals analysis you want, and injury updates right here at cincyjungle.com. Hey, the Bengals win 2-0. It sounds nice. We'll see you Wednesday night. Hooray!